Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Xia Jinshi began undressing, layer by layer. First, the white sheer blouse slid off her shoulders. Then the rose-red, sleeveless high-waisted skirt followed, folding to the floor like petals. She reached behind and unclasped her bra, leaving her flawless skin exposed to the cool night air, like porcelain kissed by moonlight. Her fingers trembled. Her lashes quivered. She didn't dare look at the man in front of her. Her heart raced as wildly as her thoughts. Outside, the sea whispered through the open balcony. The door was ajar, letting in the salty breeze. It carried the wind's cry, like a newborn wailing in the dark. The man stood with his hands behind his back, gaze fixed on the night horizon. Light from the chandelier above cascaded down his form, casting him in an ethereal glow. He looked like a god. "Why did you agree to the marriage?" His voice was cold, detached. Jinshi's voice came soft, strained. "Did I ever have a choice?" For a moment, she seemed lost in thought. There was no escaping a political marriage sealed by two powerful families. "Or maybe you never wanted to say no," he said with a faint, mocking chuckle. "Becoming the wife of Yin Corporation's heir, there are plenty of perks. Shares, for instance." That stung. Her chest tightened. She snapped back. "And you don't get anything in return?" "The Xia family's political pull, for one." "This deal cuts both ways, Yin Jun." Her voice cracked with frustration as she turned to glare at him. He was the heir to the most powerful family in Rao City. Ruthless, charismatic, a man both feared and revered. People called him the King of Hell. And honestly, his name suited the title too well. She was about to scoff at the irony when he turned around without warning. Caught off guard, Jinshi shrieked and grabbed the wedding gown nearby to shield herself. This changing room was a disaster. A shared space with nothing but a flimsy veil in between. Yin Jun's gaze swept over her. He paused at the trail of clothes. His eyes narrowed. "You say you have no choice," he said with a slow smirk, "but your body's reaction tells a different story. Are you trying to seduce me?" Her face turned crimson. "You're the one who barged in. Don't make this about me. You're the shameless one." "Shameless?" Yin Jun's gaze darkened. But before he could speak, he caught a glimpse of her behind the curtain. Her skin glowed like fresh snow, kissed with a hint of rose. Shy, yet radiant. Her beauty was raw and untamed. His throat tightened. Almost involuntarily, he took a step forward. Jinshi gripped the gown tighter, her palms slick with nervous sweat. "What are you doing?" she snapped. "I'm changing. Get out." The resistance, that fear, it stirred something primal in him. He lunged forward, pushed her down by the shoulders, and hovered over her. "If you show up at the wedding tomorrow," he whispered, voice laced with venom, "I'll kill you." The threat hung heavy in the air, suffocating and intimate. Jinshi's eyes burned. "If you love someone else, I won't stand in your way after the wedding. Just don't drag me into it." He leaned closer, his breath hot against her skin. "Are you really this naive, or are you just pretending?" She dared to meet his gaze and flinched. Those eyes, dark as ink, sharp as blades, brimming with fury and contempt, like a predator poised at the cliff's edge. Her breath hitched. Her entire being froze under his stare. "Remember this moment," he said, dragging his fingers lightly across her neck, as if testing the fragility of a vase. Then, without warning, he bit down, a sharp punishment that made her cry out. As she gasped, clutching her neck, he stood and walked away, snapping back to reality. Jinshi quickly dressed and rushed for the door. But his voice stopped her cold. "What's your relationship with Yin Qing?" Her entire body froze. Jinshi's fingers clenched at her sides. That name, Yin Qing, hit her like a stone in the chest. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. "It doesn't matter," she said at last, mimicking his cold tone with a mocking indifference. Yin Jun turned his head sharply. His eyes narrowed as they settled on her pale face. She was lying. He could see right through her. Just as he opened his mouth to call her out, the door swung open with a bang. Why did it take you so long to change? Don't tell me you two were doing something R-rated in there. A lazy, teasing voice broke the heavy silence. Fong Xiaoan strolled in like he owned the place, dressed in a pastel pink shirt and crisp white shorts, oozing mischief with every step. Behind him, a flustered stylist tried to stop him. "Mr. Fong, please, you can't just come in." Then he caught sight of Yin Jun and Xia Jinshi and bowed hastily. "I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Yin. I tried to stop him." "It's fine," Yin Jun replied flatly, eyes still on his reflection. "Touch up her makeup." His voice was calm, detached, as if nothing had happened between them moments ago. He didn't spare Jinshi a glance, simply adjusted his collar in the mirror. Jinshi, still stunned by the sudden Mrs. Yin, barely noticed the stylist leading her to the mirror. The vanity was wide enough for two, and as she stood beside Yin Jun, she glanced sideways. If this wedding went through, she would really be Mrs. Yin. For life. The stylist began working, then suddenly paused. Her gaze fixed on Jinshi's neck. "This mark." Jinshi blinked and turned to the mirror, only to see the faint red bite mark near her collarbone. Her heart skipped a beat. "It's not what you think," she blurted out, face flushing deep red. "Really, it's not like that." Of course. No wonder Yin Jun had casually told the stylist to fix her makeup. But her hasty denial only made things worse. The stylist gave a knowing smile and began covering the mark with concealer. Mr. Yin and Mrs. Yin must be really in love. Jinshi nearly choked. Was this what it felt like to dig your own grave? Yin Jun, as usual, said nothing. But out of the corner of her eye, she saw him smirk faintly when she covered her face in embarrassment. Fong Xiaoan, clearly enjoying the show, shot up from the couch. He gave Jinshi an exaggerated once-over, then whistled. "TSK, TSK. So even the cold-faced king of hell fell for sister-in-law's charms, huh?" Yin Jun gave him a disapproving look. "Why are you here?" "To see my beautiful future sister-in-law." "Obviously," Fong replied without missing a beat. Then, turning to Jinshi, he added, "Hello again. We've met before, remember?" Jinshi nodded politely. Of course. How could she forget? The first time she met Yin Jun, he'd been drunk at a bar, with none other than this peacock of a man. That night, to impress a woman, Fong Xiaoan had pinned a rose in his hair and called himself Romeo reincarnated. Jinshi smiled sweetly. How could I forget Mr. Fong's unforgettable performance at the bar? Fong Xiaoan froze. Flirtatious? Was she seriously calling him flirtatious? He looked like he'd just been hit with a bouquet, and not in a good way. Ignoring the livid Fong Xiaoan, Xia Jinshi turned around and continued to look at herself and Yin Jun in the mirror. This was the second time she had met Yin Jun second. The first time was in the bar a month ago. At that time, the light was dim, so she couldn't really see his face. It wasn't until today, a month later, when the parents of both parties had decided to get married, that they directly ordered the two of them to come over and take wedding photos. They would get married the next day. At this moment, she seemed to have finally seen his face clearly. He had clean and neat short hair, chiseled facial features, and a perfect outline point, too. He was really extraordinarily handsome. He was the most handsome man she had ever seen, not to mention the current him. The collar of his snow-white shirt was slightly open, revealing his healthy, wheat-colored skin. The cuffs were rolled up to his forearm. On his left wrist, there was a diamond-studded watch, giving him an imposing air of nobility. He was even taller than her by a head. His entire body emitted a king's aura that no one dared to peek at. It was as if he was the creator who could destroy the world in an instant. At this moment, while Xia Jinshi was silently sizing up Yin Jun, the latter was also quietly focusing his attention on her. He hated the dolls that were nurtured by the rich and powerful families the most. He did not have any opinions. But looking at the way she had insulted Fong Xiaoan just now, she was a delicate and lovely person. From the moment he entered the door, he had been obsessed with this loveless marriage. He had not even looked her in the eye. Now it seemed that, too. Her seaweed-like brown hair was casually scattered at the back of her head. Her fair and flawless skin didn't even need much decoration. There was a hint of red in the white, and it was very delicate. Under her slender eyebrows was a pair of large clear eyes. They were clean, bright, and didn't have any dust on them. Her small nose bridge, full lips, and ripe cherries hung on the branches. She looked like she was waiting for you to pick her up, too. Below her was the exquisite and perfect collarbone. As she breathed, it rose and fell like a butterfly in early spring. It was about to fly up. A few strands of knotty hair followed her round shoulders and fell on a pink and white rose decoration on her right chest. The white embroidery on the edges of the C embroidery accentuated her slim waist point, too. The wide and fluffy skirt was a replica of a medieval European Huadu gown. At the edge of the skirt, there was a huge pink bow, vivid and lifelike, accompanied by layers of pink lace. It was an indescribable dream. The overall tone was pink and white. It was pure, yet did not lose its innocence. It was so beautiful that it was like a dream point, too. Yen Jun's eyes darkened as he looked straight at it, as dark as the night. Xia Jinqi had chosen this skirt herself. She did not like those pure white and pure red. She just didn't expect that it would actually catch the eye of this picky man beside her point, too. The two of them sized each other up, and the stylist and assistant walked in as well. As soon as they entered, they saw this match made in heaven. They couldn't help but sigh softly. "I'm so envious of Miss Xia. She has such a handsome, considerate, and rich boyfriend. She booked the entire beach just to take a couple of wedding photos with her. She should change her name to Mrs. Yen." The two of them are publicly acknowledged as the golden couple in the upper-class society. I heard that they're going to get married soon, too. Golden couple? Xia Jinqi laughed self-deprecatingly. Perhaps only those people who did not know the truth would think so, point two. In fact, her relationship with that person was very subtle. Just as she was thinking about it, a certain someone who had a bad attitude turned around and extended his hand to her. "Let's go, Mrs. Yen, too." His clear voice was like a mountain stream flowing through green rocks. It was slightly cool and pleasant to the ear. It was completely different from the cold and bloodthirsty one just now. Xia Jinqi was completely stunned. She could not understand this fickle man anymore. Feng Xiaoan finally couldn't stand these two disgusting people. He rubbed the goosebumps on his arms as he walked out of the door. "I really can't stand it. Won't I die if I don't show off my love for a minute? Can't you give us, who have been single for 10,000 years, a little bit of humane care?" 2. 10,000 years single dog. When Xia Jinqi heard this sentence, it could be described as dumbstruck. Feng Xiaoan, who had always been in the midst of thousands of flowers and never touched a single leaf, wouldn't it hurt his conscience to say such words? Without waiting for Xia Jinqi to continue criticizing him, the man beside her had lost his patience. Without waiting for her to agree, he directly held her hand and pulled her out. The warm, wide palm completely wrapped her hand in an instant, point two. It was like a wine-filled chocolate. The outer layer was covered with a layer of warmth, but the wine-filled heart inside was quickly melted. An indescribable feeling of numbness spread from her hand to her heart, as if she had been electrocuted. Xia Jinqi came back to her senses and instinctively wanted to pull her hand back. However, just as she exerted a little strength, she was immediately grabbed by an even more powerful force. She raised her eyes to look at him in surprise, but she heard his deliberately lowered voice reach her ear. "Don't move. In front of outsiders, we are free to love and get married, too." Xia Jinqi. So, was he putting on an act? The corner of her eyes twitched. Sure enough, Xia Jinqi did not struggle anymore. The surrounding crowd was full of onlookers. If news of their discord were to spread, this political marriage would probably be ruined. And she didn't want to lose this marriage. However, Xia Jinqi raised her eyes and looked at Yen Jun, who was walking to her right. From her angle, she could only see one side of his face. Even so, he was still so arrogant. She found it hard to imagine that such an aloof and proud person wouldn't want to marry her. So why didn't he swear to fight to the death? So, the omnipotent and cold-faced Yen Jun also has a time to yield. Xia Jinqi couldn't help but raise her voice. She felt that she could seize this opportunity to counterattack, too. Who asked him to be so fierce to her just now, too. As soon as Xia Jinshi said this, the man beside her was indeed angered. He stopped, and his cold eyes swept across her eyes. He looked like he was about to get angry. However, Xia Jinshi didn't give him this chance. She deliberately moved closer and hugged his arm intimately. She pinched her throat and shouted, "Darling, do you think this dress of mine looks good?" Too. After saying that, she deliberately raised the corner of her skirt and waited for Yin Jun's answer with a smile. Yin Jun. He really wanted to shake off this woman who was sticking to him. He was a germaphobe and did not like to be touched by others, too. Just as he was about to make his move, he saw the stylist and photographer behind him looking at them with curious eyes, too. The veins on his forehead were about to pop out. Yin Jun could only stop and say through gritted teeth, "All right, look." Too. This woman was taking revenge on him? All right, she had guts. He liked it. Xia Jinshi smiled even more happily. She discovered his weakness. Moreover, she planned to make good use of it. Fang Xiaoan continued to rub his goosebumps as he stared at Yin Jun helplessly. "Brother, you've changed, too." "Shut up." Yin Jun turned around and glanced at him. Would he die if he didn't speak, too? "You're so mushy, yet you're not allowed to tell others, too. You don't want the investment this year, too." Xia Jinshi listened to the bickering between the two and then looked at Yin Jun's ashen face. Her mood suddenly brightened, too. She had finally turned the tables. Moreover, she realized that her future husband wasn't as cruel and bloodthirsty as the rumors said. While they were talking, the few of them had already walked to the beach. This was the side of Rao City that faced the sea. The wide beach and the azure blue of the sea and sky were very suitable for taking wedding photos. Point 2. Fang Xiaoan finally became serious. He took the camera from the hands of an internationally renowned photographer and randomly adjusted a few parameters. Then, he began to try to take pictures of Xia Jinshi and Yin Jun second. "The two of you are standing so far away. How are you going to take pictures? Come closer and be intimate with each other, too." As soon as he took the camera, this guy started to become serious. He actually dared to point at Yin Jun, too. To be honest, he reckoned that this was the only time in his life that he could suppress this cold-faced king of hell. After hearing Fang Xiaoan's words, Xia Jinshi turned to look at where she and Yin Jun were standing. There was at least a distance of 10,000 people between them, too. All right, she admitted that this was indeed not a distance that could be used to take wedding photos. Hence, she took a small step in his direction. However, Fang Xiaoan was still not satisfied. "A little more, too." Xia Jinshi gritted her teeth and braced herself to continue moving, too. Little by little, she finally moved to a distance that Fang Xiaoan was satisfied with. And she was already about to touch Yin Jun's body. Awkward, too. She raised her eyes to look at Yin Jun, seeing that his expression was normal and there were no signs of him getting angry. She finally relaxed. Point 2. "Why didn't you tell me that he was the one who took our photos, too?" Xia Jinshi had always thought that Fang Xiaoan had followed her here to watch him embarrass himself. She didn't expect that he was here to do something serious. Yin Jun tilted his head to look at her and sneered. "Is there a need to tell you, too?" What he meant was, "Why would an unimportant person like you tell you?" Xia Jinshi froze when she heard that and smiled blankly. "Are you angry, too?" Yin Jun raised his eyebrows. Was he angry, too? "Who asked you to threaten me just now? We can be considered even. How about it?" As she said that, Xia Jinshi raised her chin and smiled brightly at the man beside her. Point 2. After all, the wedding photos were not good-looking, and she was the one who suffered. She felt that she should take the initiative to seek peace. Yin Jun was indeed in a very bad mood. He was forced to accept the marriage by the old master, using the company's shares as an excuse. In addition, he heard rumors that the fourth daughter of the Xia family had an unhealthy obsession with cleanliness since she was young. She was antisocial and withdrawn. She needed to take sleeping pills all year round to fall asleep. How could he be willing to give such a woman to him? Moreover, she and Yin Qing too. In silence, he was caught off guard by the smile on her lips. Reflecting the warm spring sun, there was an indescribable warmth and purity. For a moment, Yin Jun was stunned by what he saw too. Not far away, Fang Xiaoan quickly pressed the shutter. Point 2. With a click, This scene was forever frozen in place. This kid, he still said he doesn't want to get married? Look at his beaming face. Looks like he married the right person. Fang Xiaoan waved at the two people opposite him. Come on, let's do another move. To Xia Jinqi, it was just two people standing together taking a photo. It wasn't difficult at all. Until, too, Fang Xiaoan looked at the photo and made a rather excessive request. Give me a kiss, too. Xia Jinqi. Yin, Jun. The two of them were in a deadlock. Neither of them moved. To outsiders, they only got married after they fell in love. It was very normal for them to take a sweet wedding photo. Nothing about a kiss was excessive, too. Thus, Fang Xiaoan urged impatiently, You're already going to get married. Why are you still so shy, too? Xia Jinqi smiled awkwardly and turned around to say to Yin Jun in a low voice, I think we should stop taking photos, too. She knew that not only was she embarrassed, Yin Jun definitely didn't want to take photos either. The photos they took just now should be enough. So too, unexpectedly, Yin Jun sneered. What? Would you rather die than marry me? In the end, you can't even do a kiss, too. His cold and thin voice was filled with mockery. He deliberately put her in a difficult position so that she would back down. He couldn't say anything to reject this marriage, but she could. As long as she wasn't willing, things would be easy to handle, too. However, not only did she agree, she even stuck to his side like a piece of chewing gum. Just as Yin Jun's voice fell, his cheek was imprinted with a layer of softness. Between his nostrils, a refreshing fragrance lingered. Her soft body seemed to inadvertently rub against his chest. This woman actually really kissed him, too. The kiss that was released at the touch of a finger disappeared in the blink of an eye. Xia Jinqi didn't hear the clicking sound of the shutter, but she knew that Fang Xiaoan must have captured the scene just now. She didn't retreat at the first moment, because it would make people think that she despised this kiss. She still maintained the position of standing on tiptoe, her hands pulled on his suit, looking straight into his shocked eyes. Point two. The one who can't do it is you, too. She raised her chin arrogantly, openly provoking him. You don't dare to marry me, right? Too. Don't dare, too. Yin Jun raised his eyebrows, his sharp eyes narrowed. For the first time in his life, he was looked down upon by a woman. Woman, do you know the consequences of your actions? Too. He suddenly reached out and grabbed her graceful waist, his cold aura approaching her. What is it? Do you want to hit me again? You too. Xia Jinqi couldn't finish the second half of her sentence, because in the next moment, the man's tall figure had already pressed down on her. His lips were covered with a layer of ice cold, and there was also his warm breath. Xia Jinqi immediately froze. He too. Ugh. She quickly came back to her senses and reached out to push him, rejecting this kiss, too. However, his strength was too great, and he firmly held her waist. She couldn't even take a step back. On her lips, it was as biting with anger and punishment. It was so unfamiliar that it made her afraid. In the distance, Fang Xiaoan was screaming in pain while constantly changing the angle of the shutter button. Oh my God, he only said that he would take a kiss photo. Why did he directly perform a French kiss? Look at this angle, TSK, perfect too. After recalling what happened that day, Yin Jun, who had always been cold and heartless, could not help but smile slightly. He thought that he might have been possessed that day, too. He did not know why, but he just kissed her. In front of so many people, it seemed like he could do nothing. He just wanted to shut her powerful mouth. He still remembered that she had bitten him hard. When he finally let go of her, her eyes were already red, but she had been holding back her tears. This made him even more curious. He could tell that she didn't want to marry him either, but why did she agree to marry him? Moreover, she didn't seem as boring as the rumors said. For the whole afternoon, Xia Jinqi changed into 6 sets of clothes and did countless poses. Finally, she finished taking the damn wedding photos. She originally thought that it was just for fun. She just needed to get a few random photos to report back. Who knew that Fang Xiaoan was even addicted to taking photos? After being praised by the people around him for his good photography skills, he immediately urged her to change her clothes. What was even more hateful was that Yin Jun actually did not object. She was sandwiched in the middle and could not run even if she wanted to. Who knew how many photos she took in the end? 2. She only knew that when she got into Yin Jun's car, her legs were extremely sore. Hammering her own legs, Xia Jinshi turned her face and looked at the scenery flying past the window. The corners of her eyes were twitching too. Sitting in the back seat with her was Feng Xiaoan, who was hugging his tablet. He had already uploaded the photos he had taken earlier and was currently flipping through them in boredom. Yin Jun was driving in the front seat, his face as cold as ever. The only difference was that he would occasionally look at the situation in the back seat through the rearview mirror. His father wanted him to bring Xia Jinshi back for dinner. It was normal for her to appear in his car. As for Feng Xiaoan, he was not on the same road as them, yet he insisted on following them. Also, wasn't Xia Jinshi his nominal fiancée? Why didn't she sit next to him, but instead sat next to Feng Xiaoan? 2. Was it because of the kiss just now? Was she angry, too? Yin Jun frowned slightly. He turned the steering wheel and drove up to Huan City. He could not help but think of the kiss just now. Obviously, it was a wonderful kiss. She should have liked it. Her lips were even more wonderful than he had imagined, too. The scent on her body was cold and refreshing. He liked it very much. He didn't seem to dislike her. On the contrary, ever since they made contact, his gaze would uncontrollably fall on her. Just as he was thinking, Feng Xiaoan, who was behind him, started acting up again. Point 2. Sister-in-law, I couldn't tell. You're quite photogenic. Look, this can even be used as a magazine cover, too. As he said this, Feng Xiaoan handed the tablet in his hand to Xia Jinshi. He pointed at a single photo of Xia Jinshi in a snow-white wedding dress. TSK, it was surprising. Hearing this, Xia Jinshi couldn't help but move closer. She had been snapping photos all afternoon. She didn't even know what it looked like, so she could take a look. At a glance, it turned out to be the photo of her standing on the reef and staring at the sea. She had a tall and slim figure, beautiful long hair, and a 5-meter-long dress. Whether it was the shape of her face or her figure, every angle was perfectly controlled, too. Xia Jinshi was surprised when she saw it. It's really good, too, right? Sister-in-law, you don't know. Do you still remember the man with the baseball cap who handed me the equipment just now? He's one of the top 10 wedding photographers in the world. But in front of me, he's only worthy of anti-resistance equipment. 2. After being praised, Feng Xiaoan immediately began to inflate himself, wanting to change his image in the eyes of his sister-in-law. At this moment, Xia Jinshi didn't mind his self-praise. All her thoughts were attracted to a small tablet. Then, are you best at taking wedding photos? Xia Jinshi asked as she flipped through the photos. Point 2. To be exact, I'm best at taking portraits, and that's only limited to women. The more beautiful a woman is, the better I can take photos. Just like you, sister-in-law, you're naturally beautiful. Even your temperament can't stop it, too. After Feng Xiaoan praised himself, he started to praise Xia Jinshi with all his might. After all, he had never lost to anyone when it came to coaxing women ever since he was born. Moreover, wasn't fawning over his sister-in-law just a fawn over Yin Jun? 2. He didn't want to have no investment for the second half of the year, too. Xia Jinshi was amused by him. Are you praising me? Or yourself? Of course I'm praising you, sister-in-law, too. Yin Jun looked at the two heads that were almost together in the rearview mirror to look at the photo, and his black eyes instantly darkened. He directly stepped on the brakes on the highway emergency lane. The two people behind the car leaned forward without warning. Then they raised their heads in a daze and looked at the front of the car. They thought that there was an accident, but when they looked up, it seemed like there was nothing in front of them. Before Xia Jinshi could ask, Yin Jun's cold voice came over. Feng Xiaoan, get out of the car, too. Feng Xiaoan was stunned. He moved to the front seat in confusion and asked why. Is the car broken? Or is there no oil? 2. As he said that, he glanced at the oil meter. There was still a lot of oil. Get out of the car. We're not going the same way. Yin Jun knitted his brows tightly, and his tone was filled with an irresistible dignity and dominance, too. Feng Xiaoan blinked. His high EQ allowed him to quickly realize what Yin Jun's fickle emotions were. 4.2. He turned around and glanced at the confused Xia Jinshi. He let out a long sigh. There's the opposite sex, but there's no humanity. Moreover, we're on the highway. Aren't you afraid that something will happen if you leave me here? 2. Someone will come to pick you up, Yin Jun said impatiently. He had no intention of sympathizing with this glib-tongued kid. Point 2. Fong Xiaoan sighed and turned around to get out of the car. When he left, he didn't even slam the car door so as to pour out the grievances in his heart. 2. Didn't he just say a few more words to his sister-in-law? Was there a need to be so jealous, too? He even kept saying that he didn't want his family to arrange a marriage. Look at how jealous he was. Was it fun to slap his own face? Fong Xiaoan mumbled all the way as he took out his phone and asked someone to pick him up. He was the eldest young master of Dahua Electronics. Naturally, he wouldn't be left to fend for himself in such a place. However, Xia Jinshi, who had witnessed all of this, was a little dumbfounded too. Yin Jun was really the king of hell, and he had chased her out of the car on the highway. In an instant, Xia Jinshi clutched her seatbelt tightly. She didn't know if she should be happy. She hadn't been chased out of the car yet. But she didn't have the status Fong Xiaoan had at home. If she was left here, she didn't know if she could return safely too. As she sat upright, the king of hell's dark eyes were already looking at her. His dark gaze caused Xia Jinshi's entire body to tremble. She simply took the initiative to ask, "Why don't I get out of the car too? Sit in the front." Xia Jinshi's brows twitched as she instinctively rejected him. No, I think this place is pretty good too. What a joke. The only audience had been chased away. Now that she had nothing to hold on to, wouldn't it be a good time for her to sit in the front? Say that again. Sit in the front. Yin Jun instinctively raised his voice. After saying that, perhaps he felt that it was a little inappropriate. So he added, "I'm not your chauffeur, too." Hearing this, Xia Jinshi let out a long sigh, too. So that's how it was. She thought that if he let her sit in the front, she would get beaten up. After letting her guard down, Xia Jinshi changed from the back seat to the front row. The number of people in the car and the seat finally met Yin Jun's requirements. He glanced at the woman beside him, then stepped on the accelerator and drove forward. When Xia Jinshi was hiding in the front passenger seat, she silently glanced at Fong Xiaoan, who was still on the phone in the rearview mirror. The wind was also very strong. She didn't know if anything would happen. After thinking about it, Xia Jinshi still asked Yin Jun softly, "Isn't it not good for us to be like this? After all, there's still a lot of cars coming and going here, too." Who knew that Yin Jun wouldn't be moved at all? He snorted softly, "Mind your own business." Xia Jinshi. She continued to look at Fong Xiaoan, who had turned into the size of a sesame seed in the rearview mirror. She silently mourned to her heart for a second. "Young man, I've tried my best. You can count on yourself." 15 minutes later, a red Maserati convertible picked up Fong Xiaoan, who had been abandoned on the highway. This was Yin Jun and Fong Xiaoan's mutual good friend, Zhuge Wentao. He happened to be nearby and rushed over when he received a call from Fong Xiaoan. As soon as he got into the car, Fong Xiaoan couldn't help but complain, "Wentao, you don't know that second young master Yin is now placing more importance on his lover than his friend. I just spoke a few more words with his wife, and he left me here alone. He doesn't even care about his brother's life, too." As the car started to move, Zhuge Wentao pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose. He was a little curious about Fong Xiaoan's words just now. Are you sure he kicked you out of the car for a woman, too? What else could it be? He even kissed his fiancée in public on the beach this afternoon. F***ck. He kissed her for 2 minutes. It's simply... Fong Xiaoan was now filled with anger that he had nowhere to vent. He was ready to expose Yin Jun's true colors, too. It was a waste that he pushed so many beautiful dates today and specially took wedding photos for him. In the end, he was actually thrown onto the road, too. He felt his personality being crushed once again. Zhuge Wentao raised his eyebrows and muttered with interest in his eyes, "That's really strange, too." "Yeah, when we went out to play in the past, did you see him touch any woman, too?" "No." Zhuge Wentao answered very quickly. He didn't even need to think about it. Point 2. "Sai, a horny man, too." Ever since Fong Xiaoan was kicked out of the car and Xia Jinshi sat in the passenger seat, she didn't say anything. It was so quiet in the car that even the sound of each other's breathing could be heard. Xia Jinxi did not think as much as Feng Xiaoan. She only kicked Yin Jun out of the car because she and Feng Xiaoan were too noisy. As for the reason why she was not kicked out of the car, it was probably because he did not bring her home. It was not easy for him to explain himself, right? In the afternoon, her mother gave her a call, asking her to go home with Yin Jun in the evening. It seemed that there was something that needed to be communicated between the families, too. She couldn't care about these things, and she didn't want to. She just wanted to move out of that family after she got married. As for who her husband was, she didn't mind so much, because this marriage without love was destined to be unhappy. What did it matter who the person she married was? In silence, Xia Jinqi flipped through the photos on the tablet one by one. Fortunately, Feng Xiaoan didn't take this away just now. Otherwise, she would have been so awkward sitting in the car in silence. As she flipped through the photos, she happened to flip to the photos of her and Yin Jun kissing too. When she saw that scene, Xia Jinqi was stunned for a moment. Then, she tilted the tablet to an angle, not wanting to be seen by the man next to her. This bastard, that was her first kiss too. Even if it was to put on an act for others to see, there was no need to kiss for so long. She gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. Xia Jinqi flipped through 10 pages in a row, but she still hadn't finished flipping through the photos of them kissing. F***CK, just how many photos had he taken? 2. Her face was burning red. Xia Jinqi didn't even dare to look at those photos that made her blush and her heart beat faster. She could only speed up the flipping of the pages. It was an indescribable feeling. Not only did she kiss a man she wasn't familiar with the second time she met him, she even left behind so many photos from all sorts of angles. Moreover, she didn't hate them at all, too. After flipping through the photos of the kiss with great difficulty, Xia Jinqi's gaze paused on another photo. This was too. She was dressed in a pink and white long dress. She raised her head and gave Yin Jun a brilliant smile point too. And the way Yin Jun looked at her, for some reason, Xia Jinqi could actually see an indescribable softness point too. If she remembered correctly, when she had teased him back then, she had been feeling smug and had not paid attention to his expression. She had thought that he must have been unable to contain his anger, but because there were so many people present, she could only suppress her temper. But she had not expected that he did not seem angry point too. She had always thought that that kiss was a punishment for her after he was angry. If he was not angry, then what did that kiss mean? Thinking of this, Xia Jinqi reached out her hand to caress her lips again. In an instant, she was a little lost. When Yin Jun turned his head to look at Xia Jinqi, he happened to see her eyes were empty, and she looked so dazed that she had lost her soul. He frowned slightly, and his eyes were as dark as the night. Just now, she and Feng Xiaoan were talking and laughing. Why was she sitting next to him so quiet? Who was the one who was going to marry me? Yin Jun was secretly displeased. He stepped on the accelerator, and the car suddenly accelerated. The cool sound of the engine roared on the highway. Fortunately, Xia Jinqi was a good child who was used to wearing a seatbelt. Otherwise, he would have really scared her to the point of having a heart attack. Are you driving a roller coaster? She was so scared that she roared in a low voice, too. Yin Jun didn't answer. He directly turned the steering wheel and quickly braked. After a perfect drift, he continued to speed up. Xia Jinqi could only hold on to the handrail tightly. She did not dare to say another word, afraid that she would anger this lunatic. If she did not drive the sports car properly, what was the point of playing the roller coaster? She finally arrived at the Yin family's old residence with great difficulty. Almost at the moment the car came to a stop, Xia Jinqi pushed open the car door as if she was escaping and dived down. Huff, huff. Taking in the fresh air outside the car greedily, Xia Jinqi calmed herself down. At the same time, she felt that it was great that she was still alive, too. Just now, she thought that she was going to die in this man's car. Driving so fast, even the surrounding scenery became blurry. Fortunately, she didn't eat much during the day or else. Even her intestines would have been vomited out, too. Yin Jun then got out of the car. Without even looking at the pale-faced woman leaning against the side of the car, He walked straight to the center of the house. Point two. After Fong Xiaoan left, she actually didn't take the initiative to speak to him. Seeing that he actually left, Xia Jinshi didn't have time to calm herself down and could only quickly follow him. This was the Yin family's old house. She didn't know the way, yet this bastard still walked so fast. How vile, too. She jogged all the way and finally caught up. Only at this moment did Xia Jinshi have the time to size up this unfamiliar residence. From the moment she entered until now, the most she saw was the greenery in the pond. Based on this area, it should be about 10 times the size of the Xia family, right? Xia Jinshi suddenly felt a little emotional. What her parents fancied was only the Yin family's wealth, too. And what the Yin family fancied was only the official position of the Xia family, too. Power and wealth tied the two people who should not have had any interaction together. With a soft sigh, Xia Jinshi perked up and carefully observed her surroundings. Point two. This was the Yin family. She hoped that she would not meet that person tonight. Speaking of that person, too, Xia Jinshi suddenly remembered that in the afternoon, Yin Jun had asked her about her relationship with Yin Qing. Could it be that he already knew? He had sent people to investigate her? Subconsciously, she wanted to turn around to look at Yin Jun, but when she turned around, she realized that Yin Jun had already gone far away. He didn't wait for her at all. Immediately, there was a wave of helplessness and atmosphere. Xia Jinshi could only let go of these thoughts and quickly chased after him. Wait for me, too. Yin Jun's footsteps were not slow. There was a stifling feeling in his heart that even he didn't know what it was, and he urged him to move forward. However, when he heard her weak voice, he seemed to be possessed again and unknowingly slowed down his footsteps. However, he never turned around. He only felt that she was getting closer and sneered, "If your legs are short, you should walk faster, too." You. Xia Jinshi was so angry that she pounded her chest, too. Initially, when she saw that he had slowed down his footsteps, she thought that he was waiting for her. She had just changed her opinion of him a little when she heard such a rebuke. It was her fault. It was her fault. How could a black-bellied and vicious-tongued Yin Jun ever be kind? However, just as Xia Jinshi pounded her chest and stamped her feet, Yin Jun suddenly turned around and reached out with his big hand, pulling her into his embrace. After a short period of stiffness, Xia Jinshi began to struggle. "Are you crazy? Let go of me, too." "Shut up." He groaned, his hands suddenly tight, her whole person confined to his arms, too. He is tall, strong arms, such a pressure, she was completely bound, not the slightest movement. Because of this strange hug, her whole face was buried in his warm chest, suffocating her breath, too. "Well, Yin, you too." It was not easy to free two hands to come. She slapped his back hard. Really cannot stand his reversal. Just so disgusted, scold her. A blink of an eye, and hold her not to let go. What is this doing? Completely unable to care about the struggle of the woman in his arms, Yin Jun looked up at the second floor of a building on the left. In one of the windows, the light was on, and a figure could be vaguely seen. He had the light on his back, and even though Yin Jun could not see the man's features clearly, he knew who the man was. There was only one person living in that single-family villa, his second uncle, Yin Qing. Even he could not tell what he was doing at this moment. It seemed like he was declaring his sovereignty. After all, the person who should have married Xia Jinshi in the first place should have been Yin Qing. As expected, a moment later, the figure in front of the window froze slightly. Then, he pulled the curtains hard and isolated himself from the outside world. Point two. Seeing this, Yin Jun's hand finally relaxed. Xia Jinshi struggled slightly and withdrew from his embrace. She did not know if Yin Qing really lived here, nor did she know about the scene just now. Yin Jun was just acting for Yin Qing to see. She only thought that this bastard had gone mad again and glared at him angrily. "I forgot to tell you that even after we get married, we absolutely must not have any physical contact, too." Her tone carried a hint of anger. Xia Jinshi felt that she needed to properly discuss this issue with this person. The kiss on the beach earlier, coupled with the hug now, could he activate it at any time, too? Are all men like this, too? Yin Jun heard this and retracted his gaze from the distance, staring at her angry little face. If the person who hugged you was Yin Qing, would you still struggle? Huh. Xia Jinqi, be more professional. If you want money, you have to exchange something for it, too. After saying this, Yin Jun patted the suit that was messed up by Xia Jinqi and turned around to leave without any reluctance. The remaining Xia Jinqi was petrified on the spot. Why'd he always bring up Yin Qing? She had already been used as a bargaining chip by her parents. She just wanted to live a quiet life, that was all, too. In the distance, at the window where the lights were turned off, someone quietly pulled open a gap in the curtains. Looking down from there, one could just see the young girl standing rooted to the ground. The moonlight shone on her beautiful hair, glistening. The young girl under the moonlight should have been his wife. Footsteps came from behind. Second master, the old master asked me to inform you that dinner time is almost here. 2. The man did not turn his head, but continued to stare at the young girl, standing alone under the moonlight. I'm not feeling well, so I said I'm not going. His voice was filled with sorrow and sadness. Point 2. But, second master, the old master said that you're the second master's uncle. You should meet the Xia family. 2. I won't, the man replied impatiently. He put down the curtain and walked into the bedroom. Point 2. The dinner of the two families was held on the wide green lawn. Point 2. The huge round table was covered with a white tablecloth. Food and wine were all available. In the distance, there was a symphony orchestra of more than 60 people. Melodious and beautiful music lingered on the side. Xia Jinqi sat next to her mother, Hong Xianglin. Her father, Xia Jitian, was chatting with Yin Jun's father, Yin Sheng. Sitting opposite her was Yin Jun's mother, Ji Xinyu. And on the other side of her was Yin Jun, who had a cold expression. At the top was an old man with a white beard. This should be Yin Jun's grandfather, Yin Yucheng. Before the banquet began, a servant quietly came forward and bowed behind Yin Yucheng. Second master said that he wasn't feeling well, so he didn't come. 2. Yin Yucheng's wrinkled face, which was full of smiles just a moment ago, suddenly darkened. He was fine in the afternoon. Why is he not feeling well? Have you asked the doctor to see him too? Not yet. Second master has taken a rest, too. Go and have a look. As he said that, Yin Yucheng really stood up and walked straight in the direction where Xia Jinqi had just walked over. Xia Jiqian and Hong Xianglin, who were sitting at the remaining table, didn't look good. The husband and wife pair came here tonight to discuss the marriage of the two families' children. They had just sat down, but Yin Yucheng had already left. What did he mean by that, too? Was he looking down on the Xia family? Brother Yin, your old man is... Xia Jitian's face was stern as he looked at Yin Sheng unhappily. Point 2. Yin Sheng and Ji Xinyu looked at each other, and their expressions changed slightly. Brother Xia, you don't have to mind. My younger brother, Yin Qing, is my father's most beloved youngest son. If you care about him, you'll be in a mess. Come, let's eat first. There's no need to care about them, too. As he said that, he beckoned for the waiter to come forward and pour wine for Xia Jitian. The two of them began to drink. Xia Jitian drank the wine, and his expression softened slightly, but he was still not very happy. Xiao Qi is the youngest daughter of our Xia family. There's no need to say how much you love her. She's about to marry into your Yin family. How can I be at ease, too? Hearing this, Xia Jinqi's eyes darkened, and she could not help but laugh. Since she was young, when had her father ever cared about her so much? Dododanha. This was the biggest joke she had heard this year, too. Fortunately, Yin Sheng and Ji Xinyu's attention was on Xia Jitian's words just now, and they did not notice Xia Jinqi's reaction. However, it still did not escape her mother's eyes. Because of Xia Jinqi's sneering sneer, Hong Xianglin's hand that was hanging under the table quietly reached out and pinched Xia Jinqi's thigh. His too. Xia Jinqi gasped in pain. She gritted her teeth and looked up at her mother, only to be glared at. Look, this was the so-called love is needless to say that her father said. 2. Could she hate them? It seemed impossible, because these were Xia Jinqi's biological parents. At that time, Yin Jun, who was raising his head to drink a mouthful of wine, quietly took in the scene of Xia Jinqi being pinched. His brows moved slightly, and his eyes were as dark as the night. Coincidentally, Yin Sheng's words had already reached his ears. How about this, Brother Xia? A few years ago, I bought an island at the seaside. These years, the repairs are almost complete. I originally planned to spend my old age on it. Now that I think about it, why don't I give it to Jinshi as a small gift? Ji Xinyu also added, showing her so-called sincerity. The construction of Soaring Dragon Square is about to be completed. There are 1,349 shops on the first floor. Give it to Jinshi as well. After marriage, learn how to manage it so as to avoid boredom. One island, plus an entire shop on the first floor of the shopping mall, was enough for Xia Jitian to marry his daughter without worry. Hong Xianglin's eyes almost lit up when she heard those valuable things. A satisfied smile immediately appeared on her face. Our little Qi is really blessed to be able to marry into the Yin family, too. Xia Jitian also nodded in satisfaction and gave her a gift in return. If that's the case, then I'm relieved. Speaking of which, Brother Yin, you have some goods that you want to go out to see recently. Guan, when the time comes, I'll let you know. I have a student who happens to be in the sea, and Guan holds an important position, too. Then, happy cooperation? Yin Sheng also smiled and continued to drink with Xia Jiqian, too. Xia Jinshi could do nothing about the exchange of power and money. Throughout the whole process, no one cared whether she and Yinjun got along or not, and no one asked what they were thinking. How ironic. The two people who were about to get married were treated like dolls by their parents, too. Xia Jinshi sighed and looked at the man next to her. He looked normal and had drunk 3 glasses of red wine in a row. She suddenly felt a little sympathetic for him. Just like herself, she had no control over herself. The boring dinner finally ended. Xia Jinshi followed her parents into the car. The whole family sat in the car. No one said a word. Xia Jitian and Hong Xianglin had cold expressions on their faces. They were like strangers who had never met each other. No one would have thought that when they were outside, the two of them had always been affectionate and intimate. Only Xia Jinshi knew that it was just an act of affection. In private, when they were at home, the two of them never paid attention to each other, and she grew up in such an atmosphere. Finally, she reached home. She thought that the day's acting was finally over. Just as Xia Jinshi was about to go upstairs, she was stopped by Hong Xianglin. What was that sneer you gave at the dinner party just now? She asked coldly and sternly. Point 2. Xia Jinshi stood where she was and said tiredly, I'm tired. I'll go upstairs first, too. She didn't want to answer this question. She just wanted to escape her mother's anger as soon as possible. Who knew that Hong Xianglin would directly rush over and slap her without any distinction between right and wrong? Part 2. Xia Jinshi's head was hit to the side. 5 fingerprints quickly appeared on her fair cheeks. The burning pain quickly spread from her skin to her heart, torturing her little remaining rationality and patience. And her mother's angry scolding was still ringing in her ears. You will always be like this, always so annoying. The marriage with the Yin family is imperative. If it weren't for the fact that the Yin family specifically asked you to marry them, do you think such a great opportunity would fall on you? I wonder how much more outstanding and obedient your second sister is than you. 2. Xia Jinshi was annoyed by what she heard. She couldn't resist and didn't dare to cry. After a long time, she could only respond with disregard. She used her hand to fiddle with her messed up hair. When she looked sideways, she just happened to see her father silently walking past her mother and daughter and then going upstairs. Seeing her being beaten and scolded, her father, who had been saying that he loved her dearly, acted as if he didn't see anything and went straight upstairs. Her father's indifference seemed to have provoked her mother even more. She gritted her teeth and raised her hand again, preparing to give Xia Jinshi a second slap. Before her hand landed, the sound of footsteps could be heard from outside the door. Immediately after, a gorgeously dressed woman walked in, followed by 5 or 6 servants with various shopping bags in their hands. This was Xia Jinshi's second sister, Xia Tianjiao. As her name suggested, she was loved by her mother. She was the one who knew how to please her mother the most among her 4 siblings. Mom, are you teaching this insensible, annoying person a lesson again? Xia Tianjiao walked over and glanced at the palm print on Xia Jinshi's face. Not only did she not feel sympathy for her, she even felt that she was a spoilsport. Point two. When she passed by Xia Jinqi, she even deliberately bumped her with her shoulder. Mom, look what I bought for you. A limited edition scarf. Look how this color suits you, too. My darling is still the best. She knows what Mom likes. Hong Xianglin immediately laughed. She held the scarf and gestured with it on her body, her face full of happiness. Point two. Xia Jinqi raised her eyes to take a look. She remembered that on her mother's last birthday, she gave her a scarf with a similar color. Her mother didn't even look at it and threw it directly into the trash can. They were both biological children, the same gift and completely different treatment. It was as if she had been stripped naked and thrown into the snowy mountains of the north. The whistling cold wind whipped her body without restraint. Xia Jinqi gritted her teeth and withdrew her gaze. She slowly walked upstairs. Only after hiding in her own room could she finally catch her breath. She didn't even change her clothes. She just laid on the bed like that. It was too tiring, too. Her cell phone rang at this moment. Xia Jinqi glanced at it, then picked it up. Xiaoran, what's wrong, too? Has the dinner party ended? Come quickly to Shanghai KTV. There's a surprise, too. What surprise? Xia Jinqi rubbed the space between her eyebrows and quickly adjusted her mood as she asked. Point two. Aren't you getting married tomorrow? The sisters are throwing you a grand bachelorette night. Come over quickly. We're waiting for you. After saying that, she directly hung up the phone. Point two. Xia Jinqi was stunned for a moment. Then she couldn't help but laugh. Bachelorette night? This marriage of mine, whether I get married or not, it's the same feeling, too. While murmuring, Xia Jinqi still got up. Taking advantage of the fact that her family members weren't paying attention, she quietly went out the back door. Instead of staying in this suffocating home, go out and stay with your friends. The Yin family mansion. Study on the 4th floor. Yin Jun looked through the list of betrothal gifts that his mother had just sent. Skimming through it, he didn't read a word. The scene of Xia Jinqi being twisted at the dinner party always flashed in my mind for no reason. Remember, they were in the locker room this afternoon, and she said that they both had no choice. He thought she was going to marry him at the end of her life, just to get the Yin family's money, but now it seems there's more to the story. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. Yin Jun threw the gift list he was looking at and rubbed his temples. He couldn't concentrate on his work because he kept thinking about that woman. 2. The phone came in at this time. Hello. Yin Jun's tone was a bit impatient. Point two. The person who called him was Zhuge Wentao. Hearing his tone, he instantly understood. It seems that tonight's family banquet didn't go well. 2. Yin Jun frowned and changed the topic. What's the matter, 2? Come to the Star Ocean KTV. Someone is suing you here. 2. I'm not going. He refused flatly. At this moment, his heart was restless, too. Zhuge Wentao guessed that Yin Jun wouldn't come, so he didn't intend to continue persuading him. He directly moved his phone to his side. At this moment, Fang Xiaoan was telling everyone about the romantic scene on the beach in the afternoon, too. Io, you guys don't know that our second young master, Yin, was hugging the girl's small waist at that time. He was burning with desire and was as passionate as fire. 2. Yin Jun. The night was as cold as water. The sky was filled with stars. At an inconspicuous time, the two stars that were thousands of miles apart were pulled into the same orbit. Point two. Galaxy KTV. Yin Jun and Xia Jinqi arrived almost at the same time. One person and one car, they met face to face. When Xia Jinqi stopped the car, she was still muttering about how the Maybach in front of them had stopped opposite her. However, the moment she got out of the car, she saw Yin Jun closing the car door. Yin Jun also frowned slightly. He thought about how the white Audi parked opposite him was so tricky. In the end, when he looked up, he saw Xia Jinqi blinking her big eyes and standing in front of him in a daze. It was really a narrow road for enemies. Why are you here? Xia Jinqi suddenly remembered what Xiao Ran said on the phone just now. She wanted to give her a surprise. Point two. Then, she saw Yin Jun here. This could be the so-called surprise that Xiao Ran mentioned, too. Yin Jun didn't answer her question, nor did he ask why she was here. He just stared at the palm print on her face with his dark eyes. What happened to your face? He frowned and asked angrily. Point 2. Xia Jinqi reflexively covered her face and took out her phone to take a look. Sure enough, the palm print on her face was still vivid. Point 2. She had forgotten about this. If she was seen by her sisters when she went in later, too, Xia Jinqi subconsciously thought of the unpleasant time at home. With a straight face, she turned around and left. It's nothing, too. She had only taken 2 steps when the man behind her quickly caught up with her. He grabbed her arm and pulled her over to face him. At such a close distance, Yin Jun could clearly see the palm print on her face. Did your mother hit you? His eagle-like sharp eyes suddenly narrowed. He grabbed her shoulders and questioned her. Point 2. Given that Yin Jun had seen Hong Xianglin secretly pinch Xia Jinqi's thigh at the dinner party earlier, it was not strange for him to have such a guess at this moment. Point 2. However, the strange one was Xia Jinqi. She frowned and looked at him in astonishment. How did you know, too? It seems to be true. Yin Jun seemed to have seen through her entire person and had an extremely high insight. Point 2. Xia Jinqi raised her head to look at him, and the softness in his eyes struck her soft spot. She was like a little hedgehog, swiftly shaking off the thorns on her body. Point 2. She didn't need anyone's sympathy. It's none of your business. She flew into a rage out of humiliation and walked into the KTV. Point 2. Just as she reached the corridor, Yin Jun caught up to her from behind. This time, he directly pressed her against the wall, and his tall figure instantly pressed down on her. Xia Jinqi subconsciously tilted her head, afraid that he would sneak up on her again, too. In the end, his interest was not on her lips. Instead, he lifted up her short skirt with one hand. What are you doing? She jumped in fright and immediately reached out to pull his hand, too. However, he did not care at all. He shook off her hand and continued downward. Yin Jun, stop. Xia Jinqi grabbed his hand that was about to commit airy again and glared at him angrily. Point 2. Why didn't you show it to me? Yin Jun raised his eyes and met her big, clear eyes. Point 2. He knew that her mother had pinched this place just now. He just wanted to see if her injuries were serious. Other than the palm marks on her face, where else was she injured? However, Xia Jinqi didn't know the worry in Yin Jun's heart. She only knew that she had inexplicably bumped into him here and was inexplicably pressed against the wall by him to pull on her skirt. Point 2. And asked her so righteously why she didn't show it to him. Point 2. Look, what are you looking at? Xia Jinqi's face flushed red. She took a deep breath and raised her hand. Ready to give him a slap, she also scolded him. Beast. Indecent. Shameless. However, before her hand landed, the man in front of her had already said, Your mother pinched you, right? She also slapped you in the face. Stepmother, too. Xia Jinqi said, too. She followed Yin Jun's line of sight and indeed saw a bruised scar. So, he lifted her skirt just to see these scars, too. It's a little awkward. She thought, too. Ahem. Suddenly she felt a rush of hot air on her mind. Xia Jinqi slapped away his hand. I said it's none of your business, too. Her family business, she didn't want anyone to know. Especially him. Her refusal and agitation seemed to him more like a rage of humiliation. I can see she's very resistant to talking about the origin of these injuries. Well, he's not interested in her anyway, so why should he care? But, too, Xiao brows were tightly knitted. He stared at her with a cold gaze, like the icicles hanging under the eaves in winter, piercing straight into his heart. Point 2. He couldn't let go of her and left in a carefree manner. Why didn't you resist, too? Because she gave birth to me. This time, Xia Jinqi wasn't frightened by the powerful aura that burst out from his body. Instead, she raised her chin slightly and sneered. Point 2. She used to think that she wasn't her biological child. Otherwise, why would she receive such treatment? But unfortunately, she was indeed her parents' biological child. It was the real deal. Point 2. The bruises on her body had been a common occurrence in the past 10 years. She tried to resist and escape, but in the end, she was caught and beaten again. She tried to hate them, but they were her parents who gave her life. She could not hate them. She could not escape. She could not hide. What could she do? Until one day, when the Yin family paid a visit to her house, Their words revealed their intention to marry the Xiao family. When she heard the news, she did not have the slightest struggle in her heart. She agreed immediately. Just because she wanted to get married, it would at least allow her to leave that suffocating home. Yin Jun stared at the sorrowful and beautiful smile on her face, and his heart trembled. He could almost see the loneliest loneliness and the most helpless pain in the depths of her heart from her large, watery eyes. However, she did not cry or make a fuss. She just had a smile so tenaciously point to. His eyes flickered slightly. He could no longer understand the woman in front of him. So you want to use this marriage to escape that home, too? Her clear voice and tone were slightly raised, as cold as an ice cellar. Xia Jinqi lowered her head and didn't speak. Her throat was tight point too. This man was more incisive and wise than she had imagined. Could he see through her thoughts at a glance? Her silence was undoubtedly a direct answer to Yin Jun. His thin lips curved, and he smiled wantonly. Xia Jinqi, what do you take marriage for, too? His sharp tone was like a sharp knife piercing into the heart. Xia Jinqi bit her lower lip and her hands clenched into fists. Left and right is just a transaction. Why do you have to make it so complicated? You get what you want, and I get what I want. Isn't that good, too? I get what I want. Yin Jun murmured her words and lowered his eyes to sneer. Do you know what I want, too? What? Xia Jinqi subconsciously asked back. She looked up at him point two. Unexpectedly, he pressed his body down again, almost touching her forehead. What I want, you can't afford it. Xia Jinqi was surprised by his decision. She subconsciously looked up at him, but only saw his figure leaving without turning back. She didn't know if it was her misconception, but for a moment, the dim light in the corridor fell on his tall body, making her feel an indescribable loneliness point too. Yin Jun, too. She opened her cherry lips slightly and called his name softly. She wanted to ask him what he wanted. How could she know that she couldn't afford it? But when she thought about it carefully, other than being Xia Jitian's daughter, she had nothing else. What did she give him? So, she still didn't have the confidence to stop him. Watching his figure disappear before her eyes, Xia Jinqi sighed softly and looked down in loneliness. Before she could continue to immerse herself in Yin Jun's question, a familiar voice came from behind her. Xiaoqi, you're finally here. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Hurry up and follow me upstairs, too. The crisp tone was like a jade falling onto a pearl plate, very pleasing to the ear. Xia Jinqi turned around and saw Zhuo Xiaoran, who was wearing a hot short skirt, running towards her at lightning speed. This was her classmate from university. Although her family background wasn't very good, she always had a bright and sunny smile on her face point too. Xia Jinqi liked her sunny and cheerful personality very much. It was very easy to be infected by her side. Seeing the smile on Zhuo Xiaoran's face, the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. She threw the worries from earlier to the back of her mind. I just arrived. How many people are here, too? As she spoke, she quickly took out concealer from her bag and patted her slightly swollen cheeks. Not many, just a dozen or so little sisters. Wen Jing is here too. Go, 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 quickly go up. Zhuo Xiaoran did not notice that there was something wrong with Xia Jinqi's face. She directly grabbed Xia Jinqi's hand and brought her upstairs. Luckily, I know the manager here and saved a big room for us. I heard that the downstairs has already been booked. Some people are getting married tomorrow and are coming for singles night tonight. Looks like tomorrow is really a good day. So many people are getting married, too. Xia Jinqi nodded with a bitter smile. Yeah, it's really a good day, too. Speaking of getting married, Yin Jun's words in the afternoon seemed to still echo in her ears. He said that if she appeared at the wedding, he would kill her. If she went tomorrow, would she die at his wedding? In a moment of absent-mindedness, Xia Jinqi was pulled into the private room. The moment she entered, the dim light, deafening music, and a table full of beer and drinks were all over the table. Sisters, the main character of Singles Night is here, too. So Xiaoran let out a loud roar, and everyone gathered around her and began to speak in an orderly manner. After that, they danced and sang. The group of young sisters laughed and laughed as if all their worries and unhappiness had been thrown to the back of their minds. Xia Jinqi rarely went crazy with them. After singing only 2 songs, she sat in a corner of the sofa and drank her drink in a muffled voice. Zhuo Xiaoran's miserable singing echoed in her ears. Even if you die, you still have to love. It's not satisfying if you don't feel it thoroughly. How deep is your relationship? Only this way can you confess your love, too. The people around them all covered their ears, their faces pale. Only Xia Jinqi was laughing so hard that she almost couldn't catch her breath. Point 2. Zhuo Xiaoran still wanted to sing, but her good friend Wen Jing, who was wearing a business suit, snatched the microphone and threw it to the people beside her. Who let her sing? Go! Shut her mouth for me, too. As soon as the domineering words were spoken, everyone immediately swarmed over, grabbed the fruits on the table, and stuffed them into Zhuo Xiaoran's mouth. Oh, I don't want to eat durian. 2. While the people on the other side were cheering, Wen Jing also held a glass of wine and sat beside Xia Jinqi. Do you have to marry? Xia Jinqi. From a certain point of view, it was true that she had to get married. But Yin Jun's words just now made her originally firm heart faintly waver. Point 2. Wen Jing waited for a long time, but Xia Jinqi still did not reply. She subconsciously frowned. Why aren't you saying anything? Could it be that the marriage has changed? I heard from Xiao Ran that the 2 of you took wedding photos together this afternoon. How did the exchange go, too? When she was still a student, Wen Jing's grades were the best among the 3 of them, especially in mathematics, physics, and chemistry. She was very good at theoretical analysis. Now that she saw Xia Jinqi's gloomy face, she could roughly guess what was going on. Xia Jinqi sighed inwardly. Wen Jing could never hide her worries from her. Thus, she told Wen Jing everything that Yin Jun had said just now. He asked me what marriage was like and said that I can't give him what he wants. Xia Jinqi still didn't understand. What Yin Jun wanted was not power, but what else could it be, too? Moreover, this was a political marriage. Could it be that her views on marriage were still important? Wen Jing raised her eyebrows with interest. Did he really say that, too? Yes. Xia Jinqi nodded. When she saw Wen Jing's calm expression, she thought that she understood something, so she hurriedly asked, Do you know what it means, too? Unexpectedly, Wen Jing shook her head. I'm not a worm in his stomach. If you really want to know, why don't you ask him in person, too? Xia Jinqi naturally wanted to ask him in person, but he won't say, too. The awkward man only threw the question to her, then turned around and left. But the 2 of you are really interesting. The words of a matchmaker ordered by his parents are shackles that cannot be broken. Why do you still have the time to think about these ridiculous questions, too? Hearing this, Xia Jinqi couldn't help but stiffen. Point 2. It seemed to be, too. From what I see, based on what he said, it's very likely that he doesn't want to marry you. Xiao Qi, you have to think it through. Do you want to get married or not? If not, then you should make it clear as soon as possible. After all, the 2 of you are not married yet, too. Wen Jing didn't support Xia Jinqi's decision to listen to her family's arrangements and marry a random stranger. It was said that marriage was the tomb of love. A marriage without love, however, didn't even have a coffin or a tombstone. It was buried with a mat wrapped around it. Point 2. I will marry him. Xia Jinqi obviously didn't think too long and gave a direct answer. Point 2. Just like in the afternoon, when Yin Jun grabbed her neck and threatened her, she gave the same answer. This marriage had to be done. I really don't understand you. Wen Jing raised her hand to support her temples. Suddenly, she thought of someone and asked again, What about Yin Qing? What about Yin Qing? I've already asked around for you. Yin Qing has been living in the Yin family for this period of time. After you married him, you never see him again. You too. Stop talking, Jing. Xia Jinqi lowered her eyes and interrupted Wen Jing. I know what I'm doing too. Okay. Wen Jing could tell that Xia Jinqi was also in a bad mood, so she stopped talking about this topic. Point 2. However, this stalemate was not a solution, so she could only say, When I went upstairs just now, I heard someone say that the playboy, Feng Xiaoan, booked the first floor for his friend's bachelor party. I guess that friend is most likely Yin Jun. Why don't you go find him and ask him about it? It's not too late to go back on your word now. After being reminded by Wenjing, Xia Jinshi finally remembered that she just happened to run into Yin Jun downstairs. So he was also here to participate in the bachelorette night, too. After pondering for a moment, Xia Jinshi suddenly raised her head and looked straight into Wenjing's eyes. Do you also think that I shouldn't get married like this, too? I'm just afraid that the days after your marriage will be even more difficult than now. Wenjing grabbed Xia Jinshi's hand and held in her palm. But I'm not you after all, so I can't make the decision for you. If you really decide to get married, then you should persuade him. At least, this will make your marriage more stable in the future. 2. Wenjing held her hand, and it felt warm. Hearing her words, her heart also felt warm. Xia Jinshi was stunned for a moment. Then she smiled and nodded. Don't worry. What kind of life can be more difficult than the past 10 years? 2. It was clearly said with a smile, and it was clearly said in an extremely light tone, but Wenjing could hear the deep grief and pain in it. Before Wenjing could come back to her senses, Xia Jinshi had already stood up and walked out of the door. Behind her was Xiaoran, who had snatched back the microphone, saying like a pig being slaughtered, "Little sister, go ahead boldly. Don't turn back, too." On the first floor, when Xia Jinshi pushed the door open and entered, she instinctively furrowed her eyebrows. There were at least a few dozen people inside, men and women, all twisting their bodies on the dance floor. The dim light, the noisy music, the pungent smell of cigarettes and alcohol, and the female waitresses who came and went were all dressed in specially made rabbit costumes. Women. Lang costumes point too. The scene of them playing together with Zwishaoran and the other girls was simply too decadent. Moreover, this was not a small scene. Xia Jinshi originally thought that it would take some effort to find Yin Jun, but who knew that just as she took a step, she was stopped by someone. Miss Xia too. A mellow voice with a hint of doubt came from behind. Xia Jinshi instinctively turned around and saw a thin man wearing a black shirt. He wore rimless glasses and looked refined. You're calling for me? Xia Jinshi met his gaze. After making sure that he was looking at her, she asked point 2. The man nodded and extended his right hand to her in a friendly manner. Hello, I'm Zhuge Wentao, Yin Jun's friend. Are you looking for him too? Zhuge Wentao had seen Xia Jinshi's photo from Fang Shaoan a long time ago. Coupled with his sharp eyes, he was able to recognize her even in such a dim light. Xia Jinshi was stunned. Could it be that all of Yin Jun's friends knew her? Thinking about it, she still asked, Do you know where he is? I'm looking for him. I have something to do, too. Zhuge Wentao pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and bowed at her in a very gentlemanly manner. Then he pointed in a direction. This way, please, too. Xia Jinshi took a deep breath and looked around before following him. Zhuge Wentao brought her to a relatively quiet private room. Compared to the foul atmosphere in the hall, this place was much more refreshing. The moment Xia Jinshi entered the room, she saw Fang Shaoan on the sofa opposite her. Fang Shaoan was surrounded by beauties, hugging each other from left to right, looking very romantic point 2. And Yin Jun, who was sitting at the side, drinking red wine with his head lowered point 2. The dim light shone on his clean white shirt. She could not see what brand it was, but when he wore it, the feeling of being at the top of the class instantly came out point 2. He was truly a born king. No matter where he went, he would always be the most dazzling. Unlike Fang Shaoan, there were no beauties around him. He was the only one sitting. In such a noisy place, he felt a little lonely. Xia Jinshi suddenly remembered that the last time she saw Yin Jun in the bar, he was drinking alone, unlike other men who carried young ladies around. Zhuge Wentao took the lead and walked over. Second young master, your fiancé is here, too. As soon as he said that, not only did Yin Jun raise his head, but everyone in the private room looked towards the door. Many of the women who were laughing hysterically just now shut their mouths at this moment and carefully sized up the woman standing at the door. They only knew that second young master Yin was about to get married, but they did not know what kind of woman was qualified to marry Yin Jun and marry into a top-tier wealthy family. At this moment, they looked too. They saw that the woman's waist-length hair was carefully taken care of and was loosely draped over her shoulders. The light purple flowers matched the light pink strapless short skirt, generously revealing her exquisite collarbone and round shoulders. The tight-fitting design easily outlined the curves of her entire body. Her slender jade legs wore nude-colored 10-inch high heels, and she held a silver-white handbag in her hand. At first glance, she really looked like a socialite from some family, with peerless magnificence. But no matter how peerless magnificent she was, to appear in such a formal dress in the entertainment club looked a little out of place. Point 2. Xia Jinqi wore this dress to the Yin family. She didn't even have time to change her clothes before she came to participate in singles night. Point 2. She didn't pay much attention to the envious, sarcastic, or jealous gazes of the women around her. She bit her lower teeth lightly and walked straight towards Yin Jun's second. You asked me what I regard marriage as. What about you? What do you regard marriage as, too? Her original purpose was to ease the relationship between the two of them and make sure that the wedding tomorrow could be held as usual. Who knew? When she came in and saw so many women surrounding Yin Jun, a ball of unknown fire suddenly burst out from the bottom of his heart, too. Yin Jun. This was the first time in his life that he had been questioned like this by a woman. Point 2. Moreover, he did not expect that she would suddenly rush over to look for him with such an imposing manner. Yin Jun did not speak, but Feng Xiaoan, who was beside him, came over with a stiff face and apologized repeatedly. Sister-in-law, don't misunderstand. I was the one who called him over. I can testify that he did nothing but drink, too. Feng Xiaoan's explanation caused the surrounding women to gasp and look at second young master, Yin, in disbelief. It can't be second young master Yin. Could he be a strict wife? However, Yin Jun was very dissatisfied with Feng Xiaoan's superfluous words. He glared at him coldly, causing Feng Xiaoan to shrink his head back. Point 2. Could his explanation be wrong? Looking at his sister-in-law's terrifying aura, it was obvious that she was here to catch the air, too. He was doing this for his own good, and he was actually being despised. The world was unfair. The air was filled with a deathly silence. Everyone looked at Yin Jun, holding their breaths as they waited for his reply. However, there was no change in his eyes, which were as bright as the stars. His slender fingers even held a wine glass and raised it at Xia Jinqi. Do you know how to drink, too? He didn't answer her question. He bypassed Xia Jinqi's question and casually talked about other unimportant topics. Seeing him like this, Xia Jinqi frowned slightly. Knowing that they couldn't talk here, she walked up to him, bent down, and took the wine glass in his hand.